Do you think smoking a pack of cigarettes a day is heavy? For many of Hollywood's biggest legends, that was considered normal. During the golden age of cinema, cigarettes were everywhere, on movie sets, at glamorous parties, during interviews, and even became part of a star's public image. But behind the fame and success, many of those same cigarettes quietly destroyed the people holding them. Number 15. Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton built his career doing the impossible. During the silent film era, he performed incredible stunts, jumping from moving trains, standing beneath collapsing buildings, and risking his life for entertainment. Ironically, the greatest threat to his health wasn't a stunt, it was smoking. Keaton was a long-time heavy smoker, and people who worked with him often remembered a cigarette constantly in his hand. As the years passed, the habit severely damaged his lungs. The man who once amazed audiences with his physical endurance eventually struggled to do something much simpler: breathe. Buster Keaton passed away in 1966 at the age of 70. The performer who seemed impossible to defeat was ultimately overcome by a habit repeated every single day. Number 14. Michael Landon. Michael Landon became one of television's most beloved stars through shows like Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven. Besides acting, he also wrote, directed, and produced many of his own projects. Behind the scenes, however, he smoked heavily for years. Decades of tobacco use placed enormous stress on his body. In 1991, Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and the disease progressed with shocking speed. Just months after revealing his diagnosis, Michael Landon passed away at only 54 years old. His death reminded millions that even people who appear healthy can be fighting invisible damage. Number 13. David Janssen. David Janssen became famous as Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive, a character constantly running from danger. In real life, though, he couldn't escape the damage caused by years of heavy smoking and alcohol use. Reports claimed Janssen smoked several packs a day, placing tremendous strain on his heart and blood vessels. Over time, the effects became visible as his appearance and energy declined. At just 48 years old, David Janssen suffered a fatal heart attack. The man who spent years escaping danger on television couldn't escape the damage inside his own body. Number 12. John Cazale. John Cazale appeared in only 5 major films, including The Godfather, Saint, The Conversation, and Dog Day Afternoon. Every one of them received a Best Picture Oscar nomination, making his career one of Hollywood's most remarkable. But his future was cut tragically short. A longtime smoker, Cazale was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1977, while still in the early stages of what could have been an extraordinary career. Despite his illness, he continued filming The Deer Hunter, determined to finish his work. John Cazale passed away in 1978 at only 42 years old, leaving behind one of Hollywood's greatest what-if stories. Number 11. Walt Disney. Walt Disney created worlds filled with imagination and happiness, but behind the scenes, he was a heavy chain smoker who often preferred unfiltered cigarettes. Friends and co-workers frequently remembered his constant cough, though few realized how serious the damage had become. In 1966, doctors discovered a tumor in his lung. Only weeks later, Walt Disney passed away at the age of 65, leaving behind an empire that would continue to grow long after his death. The man who created the happiest place on earth couldn't escape the consequences of a lifelong habit. Number 10. Rod Serling. Rod Serling, the creator and host of The Twilight Zone, became famous for appearing on screen with a cigarette in hand. It wasn't just a prop, it reflected his real-life addiction. Driven by non-stop writing and production schedules, Serling reportedly smoked several packs every day. Years of nicotine placed enormous pressure on his heart. By his late 40s, he had suffered multiple heart attacks and eventually underwent open-heart bypass surgery. During recovery, another heart attack claimed his life. Rod Serling passed away in 1975 at only 50 years old, proving that even the master of unexpected endings couldn't avoid his own. Number 9. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra's voice made him one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century. Ironically, the same lungs that powered his legendary performances were exposed to cigarette smoke for decades. Smoking became part of the famous Rat Pack lifestyle, but behind the glamorous image, Sinatra developed serious health problems, including respiratory disease, heart issues, and bladder cancer. Although he lived to 82, his later years were marked by declining health and repeated hospital visits. Frank Sinatra passed away in 1998, leaving behind an extraordinary musical legacy and a reminder that long-term smoking often catches up, even after decades. Number 8. Julie London. Julie London's soft, unforgettable voice helped make her one of the most recognizable singers of her generation. She began smoking as a teenager and reportedly continued for decades, often consuming several packs a day. Years of tobacco exposure gradually damaged the lungs that made her famous. Later in life, she suffered a serious stroke before being diagnosed with lung cancer. Julie London passed away in 2000 after years of respiratory complications. For a woman whose career depended on breathing, smoking slowly took away the very gift that made her unforgettable. Number 7. Jack Webb. Jack Webb became famous as Sergeant Joe Friday in Dragnet, a character known for discipline and control. Off-screen, however, Webb was a heavy smoker despite suffering from asthma. His already sensitive lungs struggled under years of constant tobacco exposure, forcing his heart to work even harder. In 1982, Jack Webb suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 62. The man who spent his career searching for the truth couldn't ignore the warning signs his own body had been giving him for years. Number 6. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart defined the image of the classic Hollywood tough guy. In films like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, the cigarette in his hand became almost as famous as the man himself. But behind that iconic image, Bogart was a long-time heavy smoker and regular drinker. Years of tobacco use eventually led to esophageal cancer. As the disease progressed, the legendary actor lost weight, grew weaker, and struggled with even basic daily activities. Humphrey Bogart passed away in 1957 at the age of 57. The man who seemed fearless on screen was ultimately defeated by a habit that had quietly damaged him for decades. Number 5. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck built a reputation as one of Hollywood's toughest and most respected actresses. She reportedly began smoking as a child and continued for more than 70 years. Although she eventually quit, the damage had already been done. Years of smoking caused chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, making every breath more difficult. The strain on her lungs eventually contributed to congestive heart failure. Barbara Stanwyck passed away in 1990 at the age of 82. Her strongest battles may have been on screen, but the hardest one happened inside her own body. Number 4. Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze was admired for his athleticism and unforgettable performances in Dirty Dancing and Roadhouse. Behind the scenes, however, he reportedly smoked up to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. In 2008, Swayze was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Even while undergoing treatment, he continued acting and working, refusing to let the disease define him. He later admitted that quitting smoking was incredibly difficult, showing just how powerful nicotine addiction can become. Patrick Swayze passed away in 2009 at the age of 57. His determination inspired millions, but determination alone couldn't erase years of damage. Number 3. John Wayne. John Wayne became the symbol of American toughness, spending decades playing fearless cowboys and soldiers. Off-screen, reports claimed he smoked as many as 5 or 6 packs of cigarettes a day. In 1964, doctors discovered lung cancer and removed his entire left lung, along with several ribs. Remarkably, Wayne returned to acting, but his health continued to decline, and he later developed stomach cancer. John Wayne passed away in 1979 at the age of 72. The man who survived every challenge in Hollywood couldn't survive the habit he carried throughout his life. Number 2. Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason entertained millions with his larger-than-life personality and unforgettable performances. Behind the laughter, however, was one of Hollywood's most extreme smoking habits. Reports suggested he smoked as many as 6 packs of cigarettes every day, along with heavy drinking. Years of strain severely damaged his heart, eventually leading to triple bypass surgery. Jackie Gleason passed away in 1987 at the age of 71. The endless energy that made him famous slowly disappeared under decades of relentless physical damage. Number 1. Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner's shaved head, commanding voice, and unforgettable screen presence made him one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars. Behind that powerful image, however, was a lifelong addiction to cigarettes. Eventually, doctors diagnosed him with inoperable lung cancer. Knowing he had little time left, Brynner recorded a public service announcement with one final request. He asked television networks not to air it until after his death. Following his passing in 1985 at the age of 65, millions watched his message. Looking directly into the camera, he simply said, "Now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. There was no movie script, no special effects, no Hollywood glamour. Just a legendary actor using his final moments to warn others not to make the same mistake. Sometimes the most powerful performance an actor ever gives isn't on the big screen. It's the truth they leave behind.